hour. We're showing 150 miles an hour, but it's definitely in that range. And Pomona PD started this pursuit. They took it up the 57 freeway. We were on the 210. We went all the way to Rancho Cucamonga. The guy turned back around, came westbound on the 210, and now we're on this 605 southbound, going at these dangerous high speeds. CHP doing the best they can to keep up with this, and you can see this vehicle just kind of splitting between other traffic, flying past other traffic pretty fast, and it's just a dangerous scene here so far. We know that this is a blue Corvette. This vehicle, from what
is growing. That's according to the latest update from the California Legislative Analyst Office, and that office guides lawmakers in state financial decision making.
Yeah, today the agency says that California's budget deficit could total $73 billion this year. That is about $15 billion more than what was originally forecasted. The LAO says that the gap is growing because state revenues are coming in weaker than expected. Assembly Speaker Robert Rivas spoke with reporters this afternoon about the issue. He did not rule out the possibility of raising taxes to deal with this.
Children and my children's children to know what their real history was, you know. But what I found out was that my mother's family, while they are Puerto Rican, they actually originate from Spain. And the reason that they moved to Puerto Rico is because the slave trade had been sort of canceled in Spain and then Curacao, and then they moved all of their slaves to Puerto Rico. And so the family business, I had been told that they were printers and journalists, but they were in fact enslavers.
There is no black history without Republicans. The Republican Party stood for Dred Scott. The Democrat Party stood for the Missouri Compromise. The Republican Party gave us the Underground Railroad. The Democrat Party gave us the Fugitive Slave Act.
Here, Emmett shows you how to do a real smash and grab from Eddie George's Action Eye News.
Because we left at around 5 o'clock in the morning when it was dark out.
Right.
I said, pull over, I gotta pee. I get out of his truck, I go to the back of the open trailer. Then I walk back there, I grab a hold of the fender, I start peeing. There's no race car. You know how like when you're peeing and then all of a sudden like you're in a shock and you pee all over yourself. You know what I'm saying? I swear.
Diego sector, which we've been showing all week. The other reason, San Diego County recently spent millions of taxpayer dollars to create a migrant shelter where some of these migrants could stay. That shelter just ran out of money this week. So there's nowhere to put these migrants from Border Patrol custody. You see the results now. These are mass street releases just dropped onto the streets of San Diego, and now they are getting help from this NGO where they're going to help facilitate their travel and go all across the country. And guys, you just heard it here. They're going all over the place.
Business while serving the customers is currently underway.
The skilled and knowledgeable staff of Frederickson Hardware and Paint, a hallowed generations-old store in the Cow Hollow Marina area of San Francisco, now escorts each and every real customer as they shop for and pick up their items.
They've been here for 100 years. It's something that they are familiar with. They're familiar with, you know, the numbers of their thousands of products they have here.
That's solely because theft has gotten out of hand, threatening the store's very existence.
The Valley Unified School District is defending two controversial policies about race and gender in court today. KTLA 5's Chip Yost is live in Riverside with more on the lawsuit brought by a group of students, parents, and teachers. Chip?
Yeah, hey there, Lou. As you talked about, these are two issues we're talking about here. One involving what kids should or shouldn't be taught in the classroom. Another involving whether or not parents have the right to be notified if their kid comes to school and tells a teacher that they want to be identified as a sex different than what they were born as. Both of those issues now playing out inside a Riverside County courtroom. That is because some parents, teachers, and students have filed a lawsuit.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday, live at 4 on IE Newswire and the Evil FB Network. And Romo will be joining Mighty Met 1490 AM right at the bottom of the hour at 5:30 after we get through an hour and a half of this rendition. Should have Brent Sexton on at 5:45. Parasata Speedways open up. We'll preview the sprint car, stock car races coming up, season opener out there. That'll be absolutely fun stuff going on. And you saw a preview of the Jamie Tomeno interview about him taking a pee and then he gets out and he loses a race car. You gotta watch. We'll do that later. You gotta watch the whole video. You will bust up laughing over that. We gotta lighten it up a little bit on these Fridays before we all go completely insane. As you saw, opening stories we'll be covering today. CRT and at the Temecula schools hit the court. The parents got a little setback, or the ones that were suing anyway. 160 plus mile an hour chase started in the Inland Empire and went through downtown LA. Gavin Newsom is staring down the gun at a $73 billion budget deficit. Man, is that something else? Slave owners, if you come from people that were a little bit darker on the brown skin tone, you had slave owners. And a couple of clips from Mason Weaver will play today on that, on the Real Black History Month. The whole boondoggle at Fredrickson's Hardware. Now you have to be escorted through a hardware store, and they're not rolling out the red carpet. You'll want to see us get in depth on that story. On that, the border's going all completely nuts on that. They're letting them run loose. In San Diego, you're going to see videotape from Eddie George's Action Eye News on the ultimate smash and grab. Him, it shows you how it's done right. Those guys with the crowbars, holy bee. Man, they're going to see what's going on. It's all coming up on IE Newswire today, where you hear the best and the brightest of everything going on in the IE. You don't get a comprehensive report, I believe, anywhere like this, but we will roll into today's stories. Here we go. So, well, I don't know. Oh, I didn't even turn my camera on. As we work on that stuff, you'll see me. Yeah, you look at the picture of that. No, we're going to hit the budget deficit here in a second. I did a little bit of tape. I'm trying a little bit of experiment things to give you the whole rendition of the main stories going on in the Inland Empire on that. As you see, the memory card is full. There we go. Of that. Forgot to turn my main camera back on so you can see me. We'll get to the budget deficit, all the other stuff going on. You got to watch the Jamie Tomeno interview about him. Oh, gets out to take a pee and the race car's gone. Oh, some of the stories you get on that. We are racing season starting. Parasauto Speedway, as we said, starting up, kicking off the season. Tomorrow night, sprint cars, stock cars, full show going on. The gumball rallies going on at Industry Speedway. The big guns are running like Brock Nickel and company, Max Rummel. All them guys will be out there Saturday night. The kids, as the gumball rally, the kids will be out there. The 12 and unders on Sunday going on that. So you can even watch the sprint cars on that and go watch the kids at Speedway Industry on Sunday, or do something fun this weekend. It looks like it's going to be a bright, sunshiny day, Saturday and Sunday, so that'll be cool. On top of that, as we said, first thing, well, we'll get into the serious stuff as it goes. Legislative Analyst's Office just came out and said their estimate now is bumping up to $63 billion on the deficit for the 2024-2025 fiscal year in the state of California. Now, the original estimates coming out, I think, were 63 out of LAO. Newsom tried to run some sunshine that it was only going to be 39 billion. And why that is even, and if you're in Moreno Valley, you better get to your school board and say, hey, what, before they are in receivership, and basically your kids are going to, you think they're getting a crappy education now? Wait till they go broke. And they were saying, well, you know, the Newsom's going to give us maybe a little bit, or if we do get a 0.75% cost of living adjustment, we get some money. That's based on Newsom's $39 billion deficit. LAO just jacked it up, what, another $10 billion from what they said. Initially, what Newsom said, and he was like $25-30 billion under what LAO was. We're in for a heap, as they say, of trouble going on here. This is a KCRA report out of Channel 3 out of Sacktown. Let's see if this will play.
To the latest update from the California Legislative Analyst Office, and that office guides lawmakers in state financial decision making.
Yeah, today the agency says that California's budget deficit could total $73 billion this year. That is about $15 billion more than what was originally forecasted. The LAO says that the gap is growing because state revenues are coming in weaker than expected. Assembly Speaker Robert Rivas spoke with reporters this afternoon about the issue. He did not rule out the possibility of raising taxes to deal with this.
I firmly believe that it's always better to plan for the worst. And so moving forward, as I mentioned, we're in the early stages of this budget. Our Assembly caucus, we're starting our hearings this week on oversight. And so I look forward to the work that we have already started, and look forward to these negotiations with the governor and the pro tem moving forward in the coming weeks.
You're not ruling it out, though. The governor has flat out ruled.
I'm not ready to comment on it. I just think that it's very early on.
We're going to have some more reports on that. If you thought I was nuts about the gas taxes and it going up and $5 a gallon was the floor, their proposal right now on the taxes is 50 cents a gallon more this year and 50 cents a gallon more next year. So they're planning on running $1 more a gallon per gas, when half of the fees, and they haven't disputed it, half of the $5 a gallon gas you're paying now is going to the government somewhere. Half of the money you pay for a gallon of gas or a gallon of diesel is going to state, federal, local governments in some form. Now they're going to go up another $1 a gallon on the taxes. They're going to be making more. Then everybody, the guys, the wildcatters pumping the oil, exploring, pumping the oil, getting it to you, the pipelines or the trucks that deliver to the refineries refining it, and then it goes back in the trucks or the pipelines, gets to the, to the tank farms, and then ultimately to the gas station where you're pumping a gallon of gas. This stuff is getting beyond ridiculous.
That was our Ashley Zavala asking the question there. In response to the budget deficit update, Governor Newsom's Department of Finance released this statement saying, in part, no one can say today with certainty how those numbers may change the budget estimate of a $38 billion shortfall. A responsible step would be for the legislature to act now on the early action budget measures needed for $8 billion in solutions to help close this gap. As for Rivas, he responded to this statement saying that early budget action will happen, but negotiations are ongoing.
Yeah, that's an admission right there from Gulag Gav. That 38 billion or 39 or whatever stupid number he came up with ain't happening. Probably you would be lucky if we get to the original 58 or 63. It was originally 58 from LAO, then they bumped it to 63. Now they're bumping it to 73 as you see that. And we ran the press conference a couple weeks ago on that, and Newsom saying, oh, you know, that the numbers are this and estimates, and we don't think, and we're putting this out again. If you're, especially all of it, cities, counties, school districts are under the gun more than they're telling you. Almost all of them. I mean, unless you're living in the really ritzy area of Beverly Hills or San Francisco or something like that, your school district is in trouble. Moreno Valley Unified has to be even in more trouble because of the lawsuits, but they're just the first salvo. The lawsuits just exacerbated the problem at MVUSD. As Dr. Scott Price said when he made that presentation out there a couple of weeks ago, saying, you guys are just about this close to being bankrupt done over here. And he was referencing that $39 billion. He said the budget numbers they were giving at MVUSD were based on only that $39 billion budget deficit. That's almost double. 73 or 38, whatever. That's 76, $78 billion. LAO's up to 73, started at 58, went to 63. Now their projection is $73 billion. And Rivas, the assembly leader, is going, well, you know, we're going to have to enact them cuts, and maybe we're going to have to start early. When? Have you ever heard politicians ever say, we're going to start cutting early in the process? That should have everybody quaking in their boots. Because if that's where we're at, and Rivas and Newsom are nervous, he already knows. Like I said, that from his response to LAO's new numbers, which he was trying to dispute the $58 billion deficit when he came out with his. Whatever stupid scenario that said, oh, we're only going to be at 39 or 38 or whatever the number was. Him saying, well, yeah, we need to get these cuts in right now, and Rivas agreeing again. That should be like air raid sirens going off on this particular issue of that, because if they don't start doing some drastic budget cuts, and if they think they're going to raise the gas taxes up or other taxes to solve this, that is just going to make this problem 27 billion times worse. And they know it. There is no possible way. There is no possible way that they can tax themselves out of this situation. This is where we would have been in 2021 had it not for the COVID, or 2020 and 21 and 22, had not the COVID funny money, the printing and just that, everybody's got more money in their bank accounts. There was a price to pay for that. A few of us warned you there was going to be a very severe price to pay for that. Now, the chickens, as they say, are coming home to roosterini on this, because I suspect that this isn't the last adjustment upward from the Legislative Analyst's Office, Because that's what Dr. Price said when he was out here at MVUSD. He said receipts were down. Tax collections were down in January, the last month they had a total on. Because that was February 6th. So they had just gotten the numbers, and I think they were $3 billion short of what they estimated in the state of California in tax collection. So this is what the big problem is with having the state of California collect most of the tax money, property tax, sales tax, and then they dole it out to the cities and the school districts, and there's a split and yada, yada, yada. Back in the day, well, let's take sales tax. Sales tax was collected by the state, but whatever. Let's say it was 6%. Like 2% of it went to the cities, 2% of it went to the schools, 2% of it went to the state. It was like an even kind of split. And that's what it is. There wasn't. Now there's so many different. There's 27 million, which is most places is getting close to 10%. Yeah, with all the add-ons of cities and everything put on. It's such a complicated formula. Albert Einstein couldn't probably explain it, much less understand it. And that's the problem. This is the problem. We'll get to the Temecula schools thing. It's just like about canine hating Corey Jackson's book, man, AB 1078. You want to secede local control of your school district up to the state. You want them to make all the decisions. Well, they're making a lot of the budgetary decisions and saying you have to do this and mandate that. And we've been through it. I've got some more information. I don't know if we'll be able to get through it. But even teachers are saying there's too much control. There's too many mandates. We don't have control of our class. We can't teach our class. If I've heard this once, I've heard it 27 billion times. And again, we're sitting here going, everybody starts, well, how did this happen? Well, it's because you weren't paying attention. And it starts with who we vote for. You know what? His approval rating's going down. But, you know, this cat got almost 2-1 reelected in 2021. What, 63%? Beat the recall, what, by 60%? Some of the stuff that we, let's say, tolerate. I mean, I don't know about you, but sometimes to me it's like mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing that people will not, don't care until there's a crisis like this. Then it's like, oh, we got to do something. Well, blame this. It was that guy's fault. Or, you know, if we wouldn't have done this, this would have happened. Well, here we are, faced with this situation. And I believe it's going to get a lot uglier in California, especially in the next 2 years. Our first salvation. Hopefully we'll get to the polling numbers. There's a new poll coming out. Vote for Steve Garvey for U.S. Senator. Because Trump's going to need all the reinforcements he can get, because if we can stave the worst of it off until Trump gets elected, and then maybe we can change these. In the city of Riverside, vote Haas, Ward 1. Avery Robillard, whichever one you want. Sean Millen, Ward 5. Start, you guys went down the Moreno Valley path of stupid in Riverside. Do you want to keep it? Because this is the way you're going. You seen what the 5-hour meeting down there at Riverside, and nobody would step up. Well, Jessica Q did, but none of the big time players would step up and run against Mayor Patty D. Somebody should have ran against Hemingway, although I get that he's not completely nuts. You got to start moving the needle, and you never know where it is. You got to contest at this point to save every area from sea to shining sea. We got to grab onto all of this and make it happen, because we're at one of the worst points that we've been in a long, long time. And by caramba, it ain't looking good. Just from that $73 billion budget is what we're looking down the barrel of in the state of California. Let's see if we can move that up for more good news. As I told you, once Texas secured their border just in the Eagle Pass area, 4,000 down to 40, 99% reduction. Where are they coming now? This was from Bill Malusian of Fox 10. This is from his California Border Patrol sources. Top 10 countries crossing into the San Diego sector. You see 28,000 from Colombia. 21,000 from China, 18,000 from Mexico, 8,700 from Brazil, Ecuador 7,700, Turkey 61, Guyana $5,000, India $5,000, Guatemala $5,000, Peru 4,000. That number, and that's when most of them were coming through Texas. Probably 75% were coming through Texas. About 20% of the 10 to 20 million that have come across illegally into our country then under the Biden boondoggle, and probably 5% in California. Well, the California percentage, as we saw from Hukumba, California, where Malaysian and others are reporting, that's exploding like nobody's business. And we, the people, are in deep on this one. And this will affect California. The Chinese thing is like beyond incredible of how it goes. We'll have, hopefully, the Bill Malusian report, the full report. We just ran you a little clip of it here in a second. Here's about the whole minute clip of the NGOs in China and everything from the great SoCal reporter, now national Fox reporter, Bill Malusian. Here we go.
Released from Border Patrol custody, they are now free to travel the country. It appears an NGO group or some sort of volunteer group is now putting them on their own bus, and they're going to be going elsewhere. We'll try to talk to that NGO after this live shot if we can, but the reason this is happening, obviously we've had a big surge of illegal crossings here in San Diego sector, which we've been showing all week. The other reason, San Diego County recently spent millions of taxpayer dollars to create a migrant shelter where some of these migrants could stay. That shelter just ran out of money this week. So there's nowhere to put these migrants from Border Patrol custody. You see the results now. These are mass street releases just dropped onto the streets of San Diego, and now they are getting help from this NGO where they're going to help facilitate their travel and go all across the country. And guys, you just heard it here. They're going all over the place.
They're going all over the place. As you heard Malusian say, NGO, non-government agency that's using government money as a front. The government is using these Catholic charities, Lutheran, Red Cross, whomever. They're using these as front groups to do the illegal, dirty work. Because if somebody's come into your country illegally, they're a criminal. If you are aiding and abetting them moving across the country, how are you not an accessory to the crime? That's not, and that's why the government's trying to shield it with these NGOs. So they're saying, like with the whole deal on the, shutting us up on social media and all that, and banning and all that other crap. This is another example of them illegally spending our money, doing illegal criminal activity. Again, I'm calling it accessory to the crime of them crossing into the country illegally. And then they're taking the government money that they give them, and then they are facilitating them moving freely about the country, which they are not legally allowed to do. I guess and why I'm bringing this out is sometimes we lose sight of the very simple parameter of how this thing started. And the consequences of what we're doing. You have this big picture of that, and everybody sees the pictures and everybody talking about this. First, they're in the country illegally. Then, now, it's gotten so bad. So bad, now even the government and these NGOs, they can't even handle it. They're just saying, hey, free for all, you're on your own. Tell me this is not going to wind up in a AAA disaster. We've had our share of border crises, goofed up policies, stupid things we've done. The last 3 years is like 10 times more of everything combined that's happened this year on the illegal immigration front. It's doing that. I wouldn't say so, because they are giving them to the sanctuary cities that said they wanted them. I would say that guy. They're moving them to the places that have said they wanted them. Florida and Texas are getting them out of there. Texas and Florida cannot legally deport somebody from Florida and Texas to Colombia or China. That's the law. Only the federal government can do that. So so I would say they are saying, okay, California, New York, Illinois want to be sanctuary cities and welcome them all in. Here you go. They can't deport the illegals to Colombia and China, but they can deport them to the places that said they want them. They're out there, and so what would your solution be? Just leave them in Texas? They're not supposed to be there illegally. They can't. The federal government says you can't put them in jail for it, so they said, okay. They're just making the best of the S sandwich we've got, and they said, okay, California and this, Illinois, all that, you want them, we'll give you all you want. It's it's a big cluster foxtrot. And Biden now is even sounding the alarm. Now he's thinking, well, before he said, well, I can't do anything because of Congress and this and that. Now it's getting so bad. He's saying, well, I should probably do those Trump executive orders like that had all this stuff figured out. Every American should be scared to death as Chinese nationalists at the border hits a high. Congressman says, We had mass waves of Chinese terrorists storming military installations with cameras. So look, it's a desperate threat, says the chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee, written on Real America's Voice on that. There is, and that's Mark Green, he's from Tennessee, on that, chair of the House Homeland Subcommittee. You talk about, and what really concerns, I can't even talk sometimes. We're at such a bad state in California. Now they're going to dump all those 75% that were coming through Texas at 2, 3, 4 million a year clip. They're going to roll them through California. I mean, we're in for more than the biggest disaster that's ever been seen. This is from the Border Patrol Union. They wrote, "Dear Joe, you own this catastrophic disaster at the border. Lock, stock, and barrel. You created it. You nursed it along. You encouraged it. You facilitated it. It's all yours. Don't run from it now like a coward. Signed, the Border Patrol agents you've thrown under the bus." And every Border Patrol security officer that I have talked to has said the same thing. The morale of the Border Patrol is beyond the all-time low because they have not enforced the border in 3 years. All they've been doing is processing illegal aliens. And now there's so many of them, they can't even handle it. The NGOs can't handle it. Makes your head spin. Like I said, you need duct tape to wrap around your head just to keep your head from exploding on some of this stuff. Switching gears on something I've said, and I started off with it, you talked about them raising taxes. And you heard Rivas and Newsom hint around it. Well, the Legislative Analyst's Office and others, Assemblyman James Gallagher and Jim Patterson have put it out. It's in Yahoo News via the Sacramento Bee. California says gas prices could spike by 50 cents a gallon next year thanks to climate program. Nearly 2 decades old program to slash climate warming emissions from transportation could cause California gasoline prices to spike as much as 50 cents a gallon in the next 2 years. That's according to staff of the state's leading air quality regulator, who provided an estimate ahead of the agency's decision to strengthen the program created to discourage gasoline and diesel production in favor of cleaner alternatives. So this whole AB 32 scam is going to jack up gas 50 cents a gallon now. Then they're planning, their big plan, the tax increase is 50 cents a gallon, more a gallon this year, starting in June or July, and 50 cents a gallon starting more again in July of 2025. So they're planning on putting another $1.50 a gallon in taxes this in the next 2 years, year and a half, 2 years. As I've said, over half, well over half in California of the five. Let's just use a round number of $5 a gallon. Over half of that, $2.50, is going to government agencies. Like I said, the refiner cost, that extra $1 a gallon you're paying at California refineries are charging for a gallon of gas, That is going to the state of California under AB 32. Notice nobody from the governor's office on down has disputed that. Because we pay over $1 a gallon. The same gas in the refineries in Torrance, that they pipeline it to Las Vegas. They charge 75 cents a gallon to bring. Once the barrel of oil gets to there, they refine it, send it up the pipeline. They charge them 75 cents. They're charging us $1.50, $1.75, sometimes $2 a gallon in California for the same gas that's coming out of the same freaking refinery. And the California blend is only like 10 or 15 cents more. So it ain't that. Very small percentage of it. So again, we're staring down the barrel of another $1.50 a gallon taxes. And if you don't think that's coming to the other 57 states, as Obama has said, good luck with that. They're implementing these same policies in states all across the nation. And it will be coming to a state near yours. Look how they've wrecked the Texas electricity market. Following our solar wet dream, our AB 32 strategy in Texas. You notice you don't hear, they haven't got to the gas and the diesel yet. But you don't hear the Texans bragging a lot about how cheap electricity is over there. Just give them time. They're getting Harris County. They pretty much they've taken over. The Californians, the left-wing loons, have taken over Austin. Well, that was liberal. San Antonio, they've taken over Houston. They're just about ready to conquer Dallas. That's, as they say, the fact, Jack. And that's what you have in your future to look forward to. And it ain't very pretty. New poll came out from the Public Policy Institute of California, who are, they claim, independent, objective, nonpartisan research. That means they're just very slightly off being left-wing loons in California. PBIC does a pretty good job, but they lean left. You know, just by that. I mean, they try to do a pretty good job, but their polls almost always tend to skew on the left side of the mark once you take them off and then the vote comes in or we see what's going on. They skew left, but they're fairly reliable. And they do extensive polling and research, and they've been at it for decades and decades. So they're not totally OTL as they say. Here's the key findings. In 2024 election cycle, it was officially launched with the Iowa caucuses in January and the South Carolina primary in the early February. President Joe Biden and former President Donald J. Trump are leading by large numbers. Governor Gavin Newsom released a state budget proposal that details a multi-billion-dollar revenue shortfall. And this poll obviously came out before the 63 LAO budget and definitely before the 73, which just came out this week. The U.S. economy continues to show signs of strong job growth, only in non-full-time jobs. There we are actually losing, we have lost and continue to lose full-time jobs under the Biden administration. So I say they don't necessarily, they're not independent, objective, nonpartisan research, because if they were independent, objective, they would have said full-time jobs under the Biden administration have went down and are continuing to decline, while temporary and part-time jobs are rising to paper over that. The U.S. economy continues. In early February, all California voters were mailed ballots for the March 5th primary. This is our 26th year of the PPIC statewide survey. These are the key findings of the Californians and their government survey on the state and national issues conducted February 6th through the 13th. So definitely before the bad news of the impending $73 plus billion deficit on that. The good news is in the last month, Prop 1 has lost about 7%. It was at 66%. It's only scheduled to pass now at 59%. Per that, that's the odious bill Newsom cooked up. We've been through it. Susan Shelley from Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. We're going to run a bond for almost $7 billion, which is probably going to cost us 15 plus in these high interest rate markets. And they're going to fix vagrancy and mental illness after they have spent over, in the last 20 years, $100 billion and made it. The same crew. Prop 63 in 2004. Newsom led the charge with that with Steinberg and everybody else. Talked everybody in that the Tax the Rich White Boys Act didn't work. Raised $27 billion since then to a couple years ago, and again made it worse. We're going to trust the people that screwed it up to fix it. Maybe there's only 2 weeks left. Only 5% of the vote has been turned in. So maybe maybe the late surge, if it's coming, this is probably going to be the lowest turnout in a primary general primary that we've ever had. If it is, it's going to be in the bottom three. Typically at this time, 30% of the votes in. So if you project that in, that's going to be less than 20% of registered voters. So unless we get a big surge of votes in the last 2 weeks, this is going to be a dismal turnout on that. 4 in 10 Californians name economic conditions and homelessness as the top issues for the governor and the legislature to work on. Fewer than half the adults and likely voters think that things in California are generally going in the right direction. That means, see, instead of saying 6 out of 10 Californians think the country or the state is going in the wrong direction, of course they name, and I've said, they should do housing costs, jobs, all that into one deal. Because that's all related to the economy. Like I said, this proves that it's ICE, immigration, crime, and the economy. That's what people feel it, see it every day. Though that's what people are saying. 6 in 10. Those are the same 6 in 10 that think the state ain't going in the right direction. Again, you have to if you want honest, unbiased, independent, objective, nonpartisan, you have to do it yourself because they're not going to do it for you. Californians believe the state will have bad times financially during the next 12 months, including majorities across the state's major regions. Strong majorities continue to say they're less comfortable making a major purchase and other household purchases compared to 6 months ago. Partisans differ in their views of economic conditions. That means when people postpone big purchases or are nervous to commit to the future, they're telling you, hey, we think it's going to get rockier before it gets better. 40% think the state budget situation is a big problem, and that was before the $73 million deficit deal got out. After reading a brief description, 51% of adults and 48% of likely voters favor the governor's budget plan. I wonder if they're doing that, if they run that same question with the $73 billion budget. Now let's hear about the cuts and the raising of the gas taxes and whatever taxes they have planned to raise, because he said nothing. No new taxes like Poppy Bush in 88. More than 6 in 10 adults and likely voters, including half or more, access across the regions, parties, and demographics would support Israel and Hamas in agreeing to a ceasefire. I don't know who wouldn't necessarily agree. If the parameters were right, I think everyone would want a ceasefire. However, most see Russia's invasion of Ukraine as a threat, 35% major, 28% minor to U.S. interests, including majorities across partisan groups. 7 in 10 think the current situation with the U.S.-Mexico border is a crisis, a very serious problem, while partisans are divided on the crisis. 6 in 10 Californians say democracy has gotten worse in the last 5 years. This is why they keep beating the democracy drum, which we do not have. 6 in 10 Californians say democracy has gotten worse. All adults, 60. Likely voters, 68. Democrats, 55%. Republicans, 77. Independents, 58. Californians believe the nation will have bad times financially in the next 12 months. And 3 in 4 think the nation is generally going in the wrong direction. 3 in 4. 3 out of 4 Californians think the nation's going in the wrong direction. 42% of adults and 49% of likely voters approve of President Biden. 19% of adults and 12% approve of Congress. Which means now, like Newsom and Biden, in California are on the negative side, and we were the top. California was the top supporter of Joe Biden nationwide, of doing a good job. You think the country's going in the right direction. California was always the highest percentage, and now they are below 50%, where I think the RCP average is about 38%. So we're about 10 points higher than the average of the polls in the state. So that's a good spot to break that one off. We'll come back to that in a little bit because I want to get into some of the other stuff on that. But now that's where they're going to get into the part of the local and state races and all that and how that projects out. But all this ridiculous torture we've been through in the schools, Moreno Valley Unified going broke. Temecula kicked it off with hey, we don't want the critical race theory. We want parents notified. It was picked up by Chino and Murrieta Valley, Orange County, Roseville, and a lot of other school districts picked up that mantra of, we want local control over our schools. Which, you talk about that, if you go to the school board meetings, read about the local control and accountability plan, LCAP, and all that other stuff. Do you get by all these acronyms? But as we said in our intro, the parents, radicals, as I see them, and they're invited to come in here in the show and let's have a discussion about it. We're suing about, we want our kids to be taught CRT. We want them to we don't want to be notified if our son Johnny wants to be known as Lisa or whatever. We want to know that. We want to know what's going on with our kids. Temecula parents are suing against that. They support Corey Jackson's book ban. He's the one, he wants control of what your kids can and cannot see at the state legislature, like Newsom. AB 1078 took local control of the curriculum and books and everything you had because they can veto it at any time. We see how the budget has worked and all that, all the disasters of doing that particular item. We're going to run this KTLA 5 report on the judge's ruling, temporary ruling, preliminary ruling on the parents suing Temecula schools and the whole brouhaha that's been going down there for a year. Here we go.
The Valley Unified School District is defending two controversial policies about race and gender in court today. KTLA 5's Chip Yost is live in Riverside with more on the lawsuit brought by a group of students, parents, and teachers. Chip?
Yeah, hey there, Lou. As you talked about, these are two issues we're talking about here. One involving what kids should or shouldn't be taught in the classroom. Another involving whether or not parents have the right to be notified if their kid comes to school and tells a teacher that they want to be identified as a sex different than what they were born as. Both of those issues now playing out inside a Riverside County courtroom. That is because some parents, teachers, and students have filed a lawsuit against the district claiming their policies on these issues violate their rights. The Temecula Valley Unified School District has passed policies, one involving critical race theory, what they call critical race theory. The district has banned teachers from teaching certain elements that they say and may indoctrinate students. And
it's not what they call critical race theory. It is critical race theory. It is white fragility, as I can get the book. It is these nutcases like Rob and D'Angelo and the whole crew. Just because they change the name of it, or, well, we don't teach, or we don't indoctrinate our teachers or tell our teachers to do this, and we don't call it critical race theory, we call it we're teaching our kids how to be nice to puppy dogs and kittens. Doesn't, just because you say red is blue doesn't make it that way. I don't care if you're a teacher, politician, cop, or whatever.
Their belief may lead them toward a political ideology. On the other side, though, some of the folks filing this lawsuit said it is the district showing their political ideology by banning some of these subjects from being taught. The other issue we're talking about involves a policy that requires staff from a school to notify parents if a student does come in and say they want to be identified as a sex other than what they were born as. Now,
he mentioned, well, they're pushing their political ideology. Let's get something straight, folks. Your school board is a political entity. Your school board members are politicians. You elect them to run your school districts. That's the way it is. That's the way the function is. It drives me nuts, these guys and gals that, well, and they get elected. Well, I'm not a politician. Then you better resign, because that's what you are. You ran for the office. That's what it entails. Everything is political at your school board meeting, no more, no less than if it's your city council, your water board, your state legislature, U.S. Congress. It is political. It's a political office. It's not a democracy. It's a representative republic. We elect them to make decisions in a certain realm for us. Let's cut to the chase. It drives me absolutely insane. They try to reschedule. This is how they reshape your thinking. That's what really drives me nuts. Here we go.
in this court case, they've had a couple big issues come up, or a couple big rulings come up in the last week, and it's kind of 1-to-1 if you're keeping score. Last week, a judge ruled that there was merit that this lawsuit filed by the students, parents, and teachers against the district could move forward. Today, they were asking a judge to give a preliminary injunction that would prevent prevent the district from applying these policies until the lawsuit is settled. However, the judge denied that request for a preliminary injunction. We talked to an attorney for the parents, students, and teachers after the hearing who says she will appeal.
We obviously disagree with that. We're really troubled that students in Temecula are right now sitting in classrooms and being denied access to concepts that students in almost every other district in the state are receiving.
Now, we have reached out to the Temecula Valley Unified School District, but have not heard back as of.
So they're being denied from the concepts that are in the other school districts. Well, what if those concepts are teaching our kids to be stupid, to not be at grade level? 3 out of 4 kids, Val Verde, Moreno Valley, are that. At least Temecula Valley's at a D rate. They're at about 60%. And they're the best top student achievement rated school district in Riverside County of the 23 school districts we have. Maybe they were doing something right. Maybe they needed to continue to try to do something right. Maybe your concept, you're trying to push your concept of failure. Because that's what the California education system is in totality, Missy. So you can run your tear-jerking, oh, they're mean to me. They're not teaching what I want, so I'm going to sue. I want to know the teachers. They said teachers, along with parents. What teachers are signed on to this? Is the Temecula School, I don't know, Educators Associations Union backing this lawsuit? And as the judge said, he let the lawsuit go through, which they usually do, unless they're 100% frivolous. But he said, no, I'm not putting an injunction on it. They were duly elected as a school board. They have that authority, and until you can prove in a court of law that they did something illegal or in violation of the law, what they did as an elected body stands. That's our system, folks. You need to a lot of y'all need to get a big dose of reality on how things work. It ain't how I want it. It isn't a democracy. Just because I want it, it happens. This goes in conjunction with a new survey finds a majority of teachers say state governments have too much influence over what's taught in the classrooms. I can attest to this because when I was interviewed by Moreno Valley Educators Association, the teachers union, when I was up for appointment to the school board, that's what they told me. I hear it from teachers all the time. Governments, the school district, the mandates. I can't teach my class. I've got students that are at all different levels because of the chaotic system, and we just pass them. Doesn't matter if you're failing all the grades, you get moved up. So they have students at all different levels of learning. They toss 30 kids in there. Some of them, and I'm not trying to be mean, some of them can't read 2 plus 2. Some of them are at pre-calculus level in the math class in high school. And the math teacher that talked to me said it's nuts. This is back in 2020. I can guarantee you it ain't gotten any better. And again, this is coming from CNN. This is a CNN article, not Fox News or whatever. Not even the Wall Street Journal. CNN. Get back to the whole deal. Race and LGBTQ issues in K-12 schools. What teachers, teens, and the U.S. public say about current curriculum debates. This is a Pew Research study on that. About 4 in 10 teachers say the current debates about K through 12 education have had a negative impact on their job. Basically, they're saying this whole controversy, this whole BS issue coming up has turned their classrooms upside freaking down. Parents should be notified of what their kids and what's going on with their kids everywhere. People don't realize in the state of California, when your kid turns 12, and they did this over abortion, When your kid turns 12, you no longer have access to their medical records. Zip, zada, nothing. Go check it out. A lot of people need a rude awakening of what's going on in California and the nation. This is in USA Today. Teachers and students worry about discussing gender identity study finds. The kids don't want to hear about that. They don't want to be talking about this stuff all day or having all the angst and all this crap that's going on. They're done with it. Teachers are done with it. When are we going to get back to kids learning reading, writing, arithmetic, learning the skills that are going to make them a success or have the great life or live the life they want to live? On top of that, Meta and Instagram staff found Instagram tool enabled child exploitation, and they did nothing. This is part of the whole culture. Everything goes, like the little attorney over there. Well, you know, this isn't going the way I want it. You know, I want to disrupt the schools. I don't care if the teachers and the kids and everybody else are up in arms about it. It's going to happen. We got to start knocking off systemic stupid. In all aspects. Or we're going to get crushed by all this stuff. This is another one. I want to get back to the polls here in a bit. But I want to get to the Frederickson hardware issue. Up in NorCal, 100 years they've been in business. The theft is so bad, they now have to escort. You have to go in the door and wait till somebody escorts you to get 2 pounds of nails or whatever you came in for. And then if you left and came back and knew, well, you know, I got 2 pounds of 16 penny nails, I needed a pound of 8 penny nails, you got to go through the same half-hour process, which takes you a half hour to get $2 worth of nails that should have took you 2 minutes. This is what we're facing here.
Establishing a new model of how to fight rampant theft. This program focuses on upping customer service and cutting down on thefts. KTVU's Tom Vakar spent the day in San Francisco's Cow Hollow neighborhood, where an experiment called Save the Business While Serving the Customers is currently underway.
The skilled and knowledgeable staff of Frederickson Hardware and Paint, a hallowed generations-old store in the Cow Hollow Marina area of San Francisco, now escorts each and every real customer as they shop for and pick up their items.
They've been here for 100 years. It's something that they are familiar with. They're familiar with, you know, the numbers of their thousands of products they have here.
That's solely because theft has gotten out of hand, threatening the store's very existence.
We weren't really given a choice. I mean, we have to keep our employees safe and the customers safe. But when they're coming in to do snatch and grabs, that was the final straw.
It's been wild. Never thought that it was going to actually happen in this area, but you know, it's just crazy.
These people come in, they have nerve, they think they can just walk away with them and they go sell it on the street or the internet, whatever they do. It's sad.
They're doing what they have to do to stay in business, and I can't really blame them.
Normal security cannot fight this plague of pilferage.
Just a man at the door is not doing it in most places. And there's, I mean, the rate of empty storefronts throughout the city.
It's a shock. I think this has been happening.
Well, yes, it's a shock of it's been happening for a long time. The video cut off, but you could see what it is. You have to be escorted into that. And I can tell you, this is what was happening in Sunny Ranch. One of our best areas in Moreno Valley was built in the 80s, all this good stuff, fancy homes. They built a shopping center in their Ralph's store. They had, and Canyon Springs and the junior high right down the street. They had the same thing. They had to escort the kids coming in because they were stealing so bad. Finally, of all the things, Ralph's they were losing $100,000 or something a month. They just said, the hell with it. Close the store down. This is what you get when you do not stick your foot down on this stuff, on the crime, on stupidity. And I don't know what school you taught in, Guy, but this was booked, was passed out to every school employee at Moreno Valley Unified. Val Verde, go look unless they've taken it down recently. Mike McCormick and Barbara D'Angelo are plastered all over the Val Verde School Board website. And I've heard this in various ways in almost every school district and somehow of everywhere coming on in the last 3 years. So I don't... Feel free to contact me, either this or message me and tell me where or what your school was, but I'm getting a lot of reports. This stuff is going on, whether out front or clandestine, all through the board. And I do agree, and I mean, I'm glad you agree we're not teaching our kids to be successful, because that's a big thing in that. But we'll have plenty of time to get into this. Yeah, and I appreciate, I really appreciate your perspective. You have a perspective I don't. You were on the ground. That's what I tell the teachers. That's where I get most of my information from. Most of them will say, we won't say it. They say, we can. I say, yes, you can. You can say it. They say, we won't say it, but we know you, meaning me, I will. So, again, I appreciate everybody's perspective on it. And, I'll take in everything. Everybody's got a different one. And I'm not saying every school is doing it, but a vast majority of schools that I'm aware of, or I'm getting a lot of reports on, are doing it. And whether it's out front, like Val Verde is, or it's behind the scenes like in a lot of school districts, it's there. I mean, I've gotten too many reports that can't be not there of that. Get back to we got about 15 minutes because I want to get to the Jamie Tomeno story when we hit KMET. You're going to like that. I hope you do. I can stop laughing when you saw a little bit of the preview of that. But we'll get back to the PPIC poll that just came out, which I do like their... One thing I will, even though I do say they turn center left and they're not as independent, I believe, as they say they are, they do extensive polling on that and they really get into the nitty gritty. So we're down to the 2024 elections and we're going to end this up. We're doing now only 5% of the vote is in, like I have said on that. So we are way down on voter turnout. Typically we got about 30% of the vote in 2 weeks in, and only 5% has come in. So that projects that we're going to have less than a 20% turnout, which would be, I believe, would be an all-time record low on a general election primary of that. But as we said before, Prop 1 of that is down from 66 to 59. I don't know if we'll be able to defeat it, but hey, we can all hope for miracles on that. Their poll on the U.S. Senate race: Adam Schiff 24, Katie Porter 19, Steve Garvey 18, Barbara Lee at 10. They've all went up a few percentage, so people that were undecided are starting to filter in. Their poll was down. Everybody's went up. Garvey has went up the most percentage, I believe, in the survey. Yes, from 10 to 18. He's gained the most steam. Schiff's gained a couple points. Porter's gained a couple points. Barbara Lee's gained a couple points. Garvey in their poll has went from 10 to 18, almost doubled his support. I'm saying vote Garvey twice. He's on the ballot twice. Most people, and it even surprised me, Susan Shelley didn't know that, but somebody's going to fill out the term of Dianne Feinstein. That's going to be Garvey, Schiff, Porter, possibly if a long shot, Barbara Lee. Vote Steve Garvey. We can change the balance of power in the U.S. Senate. And again, I wish Eric Early was in there. I wish we could get somebody elected like that from California. That ain't happening. We got a long way to go to that point. Steve Garvey's that stepping stone that we can finally get a little bit of sanity going in California. So don't give up hope of this. And man, I can't emphasize, and with a low turnout, if we can turn out the center right, we can get Steve Garvey seated as a U.S. Senator from California. Solid majority are voting for Trump in the primary, 64. Haley's getting 17, and you got 20% undecided. Even Joe is not getting most Republican likely voters would vote for Trump. We get that. That's most of, and this is what their poll has about 22 points. The last one poll out was about 19, not PPIC, but the other one. But look, Joe Biden's down to 55%. He was winning California like almost a 2-to-1 clip too in 22. So Trump's gaining in California, like Newsom's backing away. House district races. There's some very competitive ones, especially down here. Ken Calvert in the IE area. They're coming after him hard on that. And Mike Garcia up in Santa Clarita Valley, up there, Magic Mountain, if you want to know where that went 12 points for Biden in that congressional district, but he won the seat, went it Republican. Katie Porter's seat was even. Scott Baugh almost beat her. It was like 1%. She's not going to be running. Obviously, if she doesn't get in the Senate, she's out. She can't rerun for that seat, so it's an open seat. So we can take that one back. Got to hold Valdez. I think it's 22-13 up in NorCal. They're even going to try and go after Kevin Kiley, but I think he's fairly safe on that. Or that's one of their long shot ones on that. Prop 1 is another major one. No. Get all your friends, everyone. Get those ballots. Encourage them to vote no. Do the ballot harvesting. It's legal as far as I know. Get those ballots in. Encourage as many people from the top. Steve Garvey as U.S. Senator. No on Prop 1. Vote for Ken Calvert in the IE. That's our main congressional one on that. State senators in the IE, District 31, Cynthia Navarro. And if they're not going to vote for Navarro, have them vote for Ronaldo Fierro. We want a Navarro versus Fierro race. Assembly District 58. Well, and Assembly District 58 and 60 are basically split of Senate District 61. 58 is, and Senate District 31 will encumber all of these. 58 is basically Corona Riverside area. Run by Sabrina Cervantes. She's running for that Senate seat. Going up on that, Senate 31 in the Senate is Cervantes and Farouk. Vote for, if they're not going to vote for Navarro, vote for Farouk. Getting them mixed up here. On the Assembly District Street 58, where Clarissa Cervantes, the twice DUI pled guilty, is trying to move up from city council to her sister's seat in 58 and running against Ronaldo Fierro, and Leticia Castillo's running in that one. Vote for Leticia Castillo. She should get in the runoff, but if they're not voting for Castillo, encourage them to vote for Fierro, because we want a Castillo-Fierro race. Hector Diaz, Corey Jackson, AD60, the odious, canine-hating, book-banning Corey Jackson wants control over your kids' schools. He's been prominently in Moreno Valley Unified School District, prominently involved with them for 10 years before he got an elected politician as county board of education and now assemblyman. The school district that is this close to going broken in receivership, and Corey Jackson has played a prominent role through SBX, Sigma Beta XI, or whatever it's been, and all that, and you see the results. It's run into the freaking ground. Vote Hector Diaz for 80-60 so we can have a rematch. You know, it was 55-45 the last time. Corey got 55, Hector 45, and Hector didn't get no support. Chad Bianco, the sheriff, didn't come out for him till the last 2 weeks. Now Riverside Sheriff's Association, Chad Bianco's up front. He's getting more support. All we got to do is peel 5% from the last election off Corey Jackson, and Hector Diaz is in. He will be your new assembly member of that. Then we can start changing some of these laws like Susan Shelley and all of us have been talking about, Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, and everybody else that's on the center right freedom liberty types have been talking about changing this stuff. Solid Democratic majority, likely voters would vote for a Democrat candidate if the 2024 House of Representatives were held today. Again, but this is going to prove the Inland Empire is the most conservative area in the state of California. More would vote. And this is like in LA, San Francisco, that's what skews this. More people would vote for a Republican. And I'm saying that. I'm not the biggest Republican fan. Most of you know me that. But I'm saying center right. More people in the Inland Empire would vote for a center right candidate in the state of California than any other region, even Central California, even Orange County, even San Diego County. The Inland Empire right now, by almost every poll, you look in the cross tabs, every way they're doing it. So we need to lead this charge. We need to put Cynthia Navarro in as state senator, SD 31. We need Leticia Castillo in AD 58. We need Hector David. We need to put in Hector Diaz as AD 60, assembly representative. We need to give guys like Josh Hoover, which we've had on the show, James Gallagher, and those cats up there in the assembly. Kelly Sayarto, our senator, our one senator, state senator down here from down the Temecula area. They need reinforcements. That's why Melissa Melendez and that, and for 30 years, we haven't been able to get nothing done. And we've let them get a supermajority. They can lose Democrat votes and veto anything Newsom's got. We can lead the charge in the Inland Empire. We have to start doing it. Get out there and vote. Get those ballots in. We don't care about cheating. If it's happening, it's happening. If you think there's fraud going on, we gotta outvote the fraud. We gotta get our people in, or you ain't changing it. State of the state, when asked about the most important issue, the governor and the state legislature on 2024, Californians are most likely to say jobs, economy, inflation, homelessness, vagrancy. It's, as I keep saying, it's ICE. It's immigration, crime, economy. And I'm saying the homeless thing and the crime because that's where it basically is. That's what overwhelming majorities, the numbers are just way over the top. Majority of Californians now think the state is going in the wrong direction. This is key. 57% now think the state is going in the wrong direction. Only 41% think it's going in the right direction. You can see it are high. Back in 2010, even in the depths of a screwed up economy, people thought 75% that the state was great. Even in the Trump years, the evil Trump, they were close to 60% thought the state was going great. Now it's almost 60% the other way, negative. Fewer than half adults or likely voters approve of Gavin Newsom's performance. 47%. 50% disapprove or approve. 50% disapprove among adults and likely voters. He now has a majority of people that believe Gavin Newsom is doing a poor job from the PPIC poll for 30 years. This has probably never happened. Democrats obviously support 6 and 10. They're the only ones that approve. 60% of independents disapprove. 84% of Republicans. He's losing the second biggest voter registration. Those declined to state, which I'm a member of. Of course, Los Angeles, San Francisco approve of him the best. Where did they dislike him the best? The Inland Empire region. Again, very close. Central California, Bakersfield, and that area is right in there with us, but we are actually ahead. Fewer than half approve of Governor Gavin Newsom or the state legislature. 47 and 43%. That right there tells you we got to step on the gas. Majority of Californians think Governor Gavin Newsom and the state legislature will be able to accomplish a lot. Oh, they'll be, of course, because they got a super majority. But of course, again, the Inland Empire approve of the California legislature. The least amount. We're like tied with Central California. Economic conditions, bad. 62% expect bad times in California. It's time we step on the gas. It's time we go full throttle on this. If we don't capitalize on this situation in this spot right now, all across the board, and start electing some better people, and city council, you've got to, like I said, in Riverside, Ward 1, vote Haas. We should have him in next week. Warren Avery or Robillard, we've already won that seat. Pick him. I don't care. Sean Millen, 5. Start turning Riverside around. You do not want to become Moreno Valley. And that's where you're headed. Four and 10 think it's a big budget is a big problem. And that was before the $73 billion budget deficit got thrown on them. It is, as they say, a proverbial mess. Oh, man. Want to get to this one. I want to show you that full, it's got I don't think it's got any audio to it. It does have video. Now I sound like a dork. Here's the smash and grab in Hemet. This is how the Hemet folk do a smash and grab. There you go. You see they back that SUV right through that. That's on Action Eye News from Eddie George's site. On that, you see him rustling out, grabbing the ATM machine, putting a chain around it. On it, boom. This video is less than 48 seconds of that. They didn't get the machine, but look how much damage they did to the store on that. That's absolutely... the geniuses thought they could do that. What they did was break the chain like that. They didn't figure that they were doing that. I bet you that's going to cost that store owner about $30,000-$40,000 to replace all that damage. And it's a good thing they didn't get the ATM machine. Then you'd have to replace that, which I think is about $15,000 or $20,000 plus whatever cash would have been in it. I mean, I'm hoping they didn't get to that. It looks like the genius. I don't know. I'm kind. You can't see on this on the screen, but I don't know if the plate was identifiable on that, but that is another one of these, let's say, incredible venues we have going forward. We're getting close to the bottom of the hour. When we come back from KMET, we're gonna play the Jamie Tomeno interview that was Darren Pasiglio did on that on his podcast on it was I still crack up thinking about it as we go, but it was classic of that. But we gotta tune it down. We'll talk with Brent Sexton. He'll be racing at Paris Auto Speedway. On that, we'll preview the Gumball Rally of the Speedway Motorcycle Saturday night. The professional riders like Max Rommel and the crew will be riding, and then the kids will be on their big day of that, the Gumball Rally, and they get the Gumball teacher
30 seconds
deals. They give them out to all the kids who win on that. It's a real big deal. As Sean said, we'll be 30 seconds. We'll be joining the Mighty Bet, and we'll run the Jamie Tomeno interview on that. You will, I guarantee. Well, if that don't brighten up your day or make you laugh.
Here we go, 10 seconds.
Hillbilly hoedown around.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, management, employees, or affiliates.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes in every Monday through Friday live at 5:30 on the Mighty Met 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire and the aforementioned AM band. Join your vast video audience in the Evil FB Network and Rumble. Check us out, subscribe on IE Newswire on Rumble. We're even rolling on YouTube just to irritate those cats over there in the Big G Network on that. To do that, we went through the whole... Man, there's a lot of news today. The 160-mile-an-hour plus chase to kick off this past Friday and the big race opening race weekend of our local agencies on that. And I'm wearing the old 1987 Stroh's Score Off-Road Racing from Riverside International Raceway. This is one of the best when you actually got quality shirts. Look at how good it is since 1987. They don't make shirts like this anymore, as the old saying goes. All the stuff, the budget going crazy. Hemet folks showing you how you really do a smash and grab. Went through the latest polling numbers. State of California, get those ballots in. Vote for Steve Garvey, U.S. Senator. No. Get everybody you can. Get those ballots harvested and in before March 5th, 8 o'clock. You can drop those ballots off at any polling place, any register of voters, any of these drop boxes, anything. You can take a ballot. And let's say your mother-in-law has her ballot and she's across town and she says, well, can you drop this off for me? And then she's in a different precinct to that. And you're going to the polls, or you're going to drop yours off at when you go vote. Maybe you're going to vote on Tuesday the 5th at your local polling place, or drop it off there. You can drop their ballot off there. You can drop a ballot, those mail-in ballots you can drop off at any official polling place, location, register of voters, where they have these deals in the library and all these other external voting locations or whatever. If it's an official place, you can be in Shasta, California, and drop it off in Moreno Valley, and they will get it there. So there is no excuse. Get out there and vote for that. City of Riverside, if you're in that, Ward 1, Haas in Ward 1, Pickham in 3, Sean Mill, Senate District 31, Navarro, 8058, Leticia Castillo, 8060, Hector Diaz Nava, as is listed on the ballot, and so forth on that. This guy, you see Jamie Tomeno. Probably a lot of you guys ain't familiar with this because he was a big time guy and NASCAR modified champion, I believe. Maybe he did. Maybe he was the guy that won the most races that didn't win the championship. I don't know. He's a big, successful guy. NASCAR modifieds are big in the northeastern California area and the southern area. You know, New York, Connecticut, all that. They're big, strong. They have a big, strong contingent. The Madhouse at Bowman Gray Stadium in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and they got a Southern Tour where they're really strong. And they were from NASCAR's first division. Bill France Sr., his first division, his first races he promoted under the NASCAR banner were actually NASCAR modified races, and they still race them today. I think Tomeno's retired, but Derek Persiglio, or however you say his name, I'm sure I'm butchering it, he has a podcast, and you'll see him. He does some pit reporters on like the truck races or ARCA Menards. He's kind of and he races some too. He's kind of around that, but he has a podcast that he does, and he had Jamie Tomeno on his recent podcast. And Jamie Tomeno tells a story of him. He had kind of a one-off ride, you know, you see his 99. That was kind of his number, his 99 in his main team. But, you know, guys would call up and say, hey, can you drive my car here or there one time, one off or something? He kind of did that. So he picked and chose, and he done, you know, as most short track racers do on that. This is Jamie Tomeno telling the story of them going from a race and a one-off team, kind of like a last-minute put-together deal. Hey, let's go. Can you drive the car? Yeah, I'm going to go for it. Hey, we're picking up and go. So let's Jamie Tomeno tell the story of going to the races, and all of a sudden your race car is missing. Here we go.
Going to Flemington to race with my buddy Sat Savage. He worked at IROC at the time. He wanted me to drive his car at a race at Evergreen, and this is in the 90s.
I remember Evergreen.
You know, so I used to freelance a lot also with other guys and stuff. So we leave his house in Jackson, New Jersey. We get about halfway, almost to Flemington, which would have been about halfway to Evergreen Speedway. And I told him, listen, pull over, I got to pee. Because we left at around 5 o'clock in the morning when it was dark out.
Right.
I said, pull over, I got to pee. I get out of his truck, I go to the back of the open trailer. And I walk back there, I grab a hold of the fender, I start peeing. There's no race car. You know how like when you're peeing and then all of a sudden like you're in a shock and you pee all over yourself. You know what I'm saying? I swear to God. I zipper my pants up and I'm still got to go.
You're right.
I run to the side of his truck and I said, where's the car?
Right.
I said, we loaded it up, right? He goes, yeah. I said, well, there's no car. It's gone.
Where's the car?
It was gone.
Where was it?
Nobody
tied it down?
It was tied down, but somehow it flew off.
I will pick it up in a second. I just got to, and we've all, I'm sure there's lots of stories to tell. Like this is one of the best ones of that. You're going, and of course, who hasn't, pulled off the side of the road? You're going on wild and, got to take a leak, do that. Now he's going on and he discovers the race car's gone. The race car's gone, and he's like, he's thinking like, first, you're like shocked. No, we didn't. We know we put the car on the trailer before we got in there and do that. I'll let Jamie pick up the story from there.
And he's driving the truck and doesn't realize we lost the car. How could you drive and not know you lost the car?
Yeah, you feel it on the trailer.
You would think, well, we drove over an hour because when we finally found it, it was an hour behind us. And I thought for sure it flew off and it was gone. It was sitting in the middle of the highway at a red light. Swear to God.
I guess rolled off the back of the trailer as you guys took off.
Somehow or another. Now, if I didn't stop to pee, we would have went all the way to that track and got there with an empty trailer. Swear to God.
How could you not love that story from Jamie Toohey? There's more to it, but they went an hour. The dude is, and that's what I mean, I guess he's you're probably glancing in the rearview mirror or whatever. I guess he just, you're just assuming the car's that you loaded the car on, you tied it down, or supposedly all this like that. You've done this 9,437 times, and you just assume you're driving along, and you're just assuming the car's on. There's more from Jamie.
Goodness for your bladder, right?
Yeah. Yes. So we turned around and went back. The cops had it all going off the car. Nothing
you guys didn't get in trouble? No ticket or nothing?
Not there. Everybody thought it was hilarious. Yeah. In the meantime, the guy thought he killed somebody. He says, the car probably flew off, killed somebody. I'm going to jail. I need a tranquilizer.
The car wasn't wrecked? No damage or nothing?
Nothing, because open trailers were, like, some of them were real low to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And it rolled right off, and we rolled it right back on, like nothing ever happened, but it did happen. I'll never forget that guy's face when I told him the car is gone.
So how'd you run that night? How'd you run that night?
We ran good. We finished fifth in the race. Yeah. But can you imagine showing up to the track with an empty trailer? You don't know what you're doing.
Right.
And you're here to buy a car.
You didn't look in the mirror. Like, couldn't look in the rearview mirror.
Once again, we left at 5 o'clock in the morning. It was dark.
Oh, okay.
I was in the back seat sleeping. You know what I'm saying? So the guy driving should have realized he lost. Not me. I'm in the back seat.
There's that Darren Persinglio, or however you see, that was a great interview with Jamie on that. I mean, like he said, you're on, and it was lucky they were on there, and probably too it was it rolled off. That they were lucky. It was like at a stoplight where they pulled off, and obviously you're going slower, 5 or 10 miles an hour, and just rolled off as they went through the intersection, and they merrily went on their way an hour later. And like he said, if I wouldn't have had to take a leak on the side of the road, we'd have got to the racetrack with an empty freaking trailer. Like he said, could you imagine if you just showed up at the track with an empty trailer? Like he said, you'd have never heard the end of that. Like, well, what are you guys showing up here? You here to buy a car? What, yours ain't no good? You want to buy one of ours so you can beat us with it? Or, you'd have never heard the end of that. I got to get, one day I'll tell my missing race car story off of that. That's a good, it happened right here in town, right? Well, actually Riverside Raceway, to be to pinpoint the location of it. That was so I mean, that's one reason why I could crack up about Jamie Tomato's story, because he ain't the only one that's had a race car fly off the trailer or the ramp truck on that going on. Yeah, it's I mean, it's like, that's some, and why bring that out? And we go through all this stuff with that, but we got to have some fun. And maybe we just don't have, and I don't see that, and hopefully we'll have some more. And like I say, on the weekends, you got to do something fun like this. Go to the races, Paris Auto Speedway. We'll have Brent Sexton on here in a few minutes. He'll be racing out at Paris Auto Speedway here in tomorrow night, but we'll have him on that to preview what's going on there. Even if you go to Paris Auto Speedway on Saturday, or you don't, and even if you don't go to the Speedway motorcycle races at Industry Speedway there at the Expo Center there in Industry, California, they're kind of on East LA and industrial area out there. Go watch the kids on Sunday. Go watch them run their bikes. Encourage the kids to do that kind of stuff. They don't get it. too many kids today, as we've documented, don't get that time to experience life like this. Like I said, I experienced that race car removing itself from the tow vehicle like when I was 10, 11 years old. So again, kids don't have that kind of experience, and they should. More kids should be mini dwarf cars, quarter midgets, speedway bikes, motocross, soccer, football, whatever. Just going out and hiking up Box Springs Mountain. Just learning how to live, learning what life's all about, learning how to deal with the fun stuff or the adversity, or having those fun experiences of thinking, like the driver of the owner of the car and driver of the tow vehicle thought he thought he was going to jail. Probably figured he killed somebody, or a race car flew off, somebody hit it, because it could. I mean, you imagine if the car flew off to going down the freeway and somebody hits it. I mean, you'd be in a deal. And I will say this, with something called the Melnick chain. There was somebody that, I don't know what his last name was, Melnick or something, but he lost 3 or 4 race cars, or a bunch of them, off the trailer, like this, not tying them down correctly or whatever it was. So most people, they should, if they don't, you should always have one as last resort. You should have a chain that, like, you wrap around the frame or something and clip it on or something. It doesn't have to be tight, usually is not, but in case everything else fails, you got the Melnick chain on there. So even if you didn't do it, the last thing you hook up before you leave is the Melnick chain, so the race car didn't fly off the trailer. It isn't as big a deal as it was before, because even back in them days, even a big dude, guy working for the IROC series, which was a big deal. Roger Penske owned it and stuff. It was a big deal, but he had a good job and all that, but he got to that point of that. So, but they were towing in an open trailer. This is probably in the 70s, 80s, 90s, maybe, I think I think Jamie started when he was in maybe late 70s, 80s or so. Do some, if it isn't going to the races this weekend, our local racing team's firing up
Inner City Auto Repair and Tires, located in Beaumont, would like to help. Need some new tires? Your check engine light on? Or how about an oil change? Call Inner City Auto Repair and Tires today for all general auto repair services, and they specialize in both foreign and domestic vehicles. Call 849-655-2 to set up an appointment or come on in. Inner City Auto Repair and Tires is located at 373 East 5th Street in Beaumont. 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturdays. Call 951-849-6552. That's 951-849-6552.
As you know, I've been talking about standing up for our country, doing something. These big box stores stayed open while the little guys closed. Will our voices be heard? Does voting with our dollars work? PatriotSwitch.com gives patriots the power to walk away from the big box stores forever. Stop supporting the enemies of freedom now. That's why PatriotSwitch.com was created. For those who support America. PatriotSwitch.com. Spread the word. IE Newswire is now on every Monday through Friday, live at 5 p.m. on Rumble and KMET 1490 AM, 5:30 to 6 p.m. Join all the cool kids who want an eclectic look at the news without all the filters of the evil scoundrels of social media and the despicable dorks of the dominant press. Don't bumble and stumble. Subscribe to IE Newswire on Rumble and roll with the best hillbilly hoedown around. There's funky slide guitar music that comes in.
You learn where your place is in the world. It is not a time when you should be making decisions about your health care, things that are, many times irreversible, and certainly not things regarding all of this gender nonsense. So the idea that this is being taken out of the hands of parents, the ones who are supposed to steward and guide children through that very awkward, tumultuous, difficult time called childhood, and they are instead, giving it over to these people who do not have your kid's best interest in mind. It's horrifying.
It 100% is. It's absolutely ridiculous of the road we're going down, and if we don't reverse this course and reverse it very fast, we're going to be in deep doo-doo, as George Poppy Bush used to say on that. Thanks for being on, Dr. Kelly. We'll do this again soon.
Thanks for tolerating me on a Thursday, Roy.
You got it. No problem. Dr. Kelly Victory on there saying it only as she can on that. It's a heck of a deal. I mean, we got a lot of challenges going on, and we know no more than here in the Inland Empire, especially Moreno Valley and stuff. But it's the whole control thing. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get your kids from the youngest age possible. And we have been allowing it. We've been allowing it for far, far, far too long on this whole enchilada. And we need to basically just stop, take a breath. And sometimes we don't even need to change. I mean, like Bill O'Saley, and I appreciate his efforts for doing it, and I applaud it, and I support it. Man, we just, if nothing else, maybe let's just put the brakes on everything for another 6 months and not use the old Hippocratic oath. First, do no harm. We'd be in a lot better shape. Just to say, hey, time out. Let's assess everything and see what we're doing. Because, man, things are hitting so fast, so hard, all across the board. It's just sometimes, and I get it, people get so overwhelmed they just can't deal with it.